Just like how our physical mind has different faculties, such as memory, reason, critical thinking, and reading, these are the different faculties of the natural mind. Likewise, our spiritual mind has three different faculties, or three different things that make up our spiritual mind. And that is knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Just like how the success of our life is determined by our physical mind, likewise, the success of our spiritual growth and our spiritual transformation is dependent on our spiritual mind and how well we develop these three faculties. And so, spiritual intelligence is the makeup of these three faculties of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. And so, if you lack one of these qualities or these faculties, your spiritual IQ will decrease. In order for you to be successful, you need to have a high spiritual intelligence. And so, how do we develop the spiritual intelligence through these three faculties? There's a particular order in which you develop these. And so, the right order is first knowledge, and then understanding, and then wisdom. And so, let's start with knowledge. Knowledge is the first thing. And many people have knowledge. It's not like our life lacks knowledge. We know the things that we should do in life. For example, think about someone who has a goal of losing weight. They know how to lose weight. They know they need to go to the gym to lift weights. They know that they need to go to cardio. They know they need control of their diet. They know all these things, but how come they're not able to turn that theoretical knowledge into something that's practical? And the reason why is because they're lacking the conversion of the knowledge to understanding. Knowledge is the ability to know something. They know what to do. They know how to do it. They know all the things, but they lack the understanding that drives them to do it. If you have an understanding about a situation, for example, if you have an understanding that, oh, I need to do this, or that I need to change my life, then you will apply that knowledge with no issues. I'll tell you a parable. Suppose there's a person who is a chronic drinker. They always drink alcohol. They always drink so much. And even though they try to quit, they could not. So the family tells him to quit drinking. Their friends tell him to stop drinking. And even when he goes to the doctor says stop drinking, and he's still not able to change. And he keeps on drinking, and eventually he gets a kidney failure, and then he gets a new kidney through a kidney transplant. The day after the kidney transplant, till the rest of his life, he's able to stop drinking. Why is it? Why is that before, when he was a chronic drinker, drinking for 10 plus years, that he's unable to change, even though his family, his friends, and even his doctor told him to change? He was not able to change. But when he got the kidney transplant, now he was able to change. Why is that? It's because once he got the kidney transplant, he now gained the understanding. He now gained the understanding that, okay, oh wow, I really need to change my life. That I really lost my kidney. I need to really change my ways. Unfortunately, many people only gain understanding like this when something bad happens to them. Why is it that he did not gain the understanding beforehand, when his family told him to stop, when his friends told him to stop, or worst case scenario, when the doctor told him to stop drinking? Why was it that he was not able to change then, but only now he's able to change? It's because now he finally got the understanding that he needs to change his life. And unfortunately, the way he got the understanding was through a negative circumstance, through a problem occurring in his life that caused him to change. Many times in life, unfortunately, the human behavior is that we only change when something bad happens to us. We never change when something good happens. Change comes from understanding, and unfortunately, the only way that people understand is through something bad happening in their life. Think about another example. A kid who cannot stop lying. The parents tell the kid, hey kid, don't lie. Lying is bad. And he has the knowledge that lying is bad. It's not like he doesn't know lying is wrong. He knows that lying is bad, he has the knowledge, but he doesn't have the understanding. And once he gets the understanding that lying is bad, then he will stop lying. But because he does not have this understanding that lying is bad, he just keeps on lying and saying those things. And then one day he says a big lie, and then he gets in really big trouble with the principal. And because of that big trouble, he now has the understanding that, okay, I should not lie anymore, that I learned my lesson. Learning a lesson is basically an understanding. When someone says that, oh, I learned my lesson, basically he's saying that, oh, I've now gained the understanding of why I should no longer do this. You gain the understanding of the fact. And unfortunately, like I mentioned, many people, they only gain understanding in life when bad things happen to them. And so I pray that you guys watching, I pray that you guys will not gain understanding through bad circumstances in life, but rather you will gain understanding through other people's advice. For example, in the book of Proverbs, it says, a rebuke is more effective for a wise man than 100 blows on a fool. Proverbs 17 verse 10. So gain understanding through a rebuke rather than negative consequences. And so the level after understanding is wisdom. Knowledge is you knowing the facts, you know what to do. Understanding is being serious enough to implement that knowledge. But now wisdom is how do you effectively apply that knowledge in a correct way. Wisdom is basically skillful execution in life. Say, for example, someone trying to lose weight. They know, okay, this is how I lose weight. I need to exercise, I need to do cardio, I need to control my diet. And they have the understanding now that, okay, I actually need to change my ways. I need to change my life and actually lose this weight. But if they lack wisdom, they execute that knowledge in the wrong way. For example, they may go to the gym 7 days a week and each day, they work out for 2 hours. Or for the diet, they may do a complete water fast diet for like 10 days. They go to the extreme. They lack the wisdom on how to execute effectively. The way we change in life is not through big heroic acts. The way we change in life is not through big things we do once in a while. The way we change in life is through small step-by-step things. And so wisdom is knowing how do I execute this in a way that is sustainable. How do I execute this in a way that will benefit me in the long term rather than the short term gains? And part of this wisdom is the idea of efficiency. What is efficiency? Efficiency is getting more done with the least amount of effort. Suppose you went to the store, you bought 100 bricks and you want to take them back to your home. One way, the least efficient way, is bringing the bricks 10 by 10. Suppose you have 100 bricks, right? You bring in 10 bricks on each route. So you'd be going back and forth 20 times in order for you to bring all the bricks home. But the more efficient way, through wisdom, says, hey, even though my car can only fit 10 bricks, I'll get a rental truck. This rental truck for me to rent for 1 hour is about $10. So I can bring all the bricks at once from the store back to home. So that is efficiency. Your time is worth more than $10, correct? And so that is wisdom. Wisdom is looking at efficiency. Wisdom says, hey, this is more efficient. And so wisdom looks for the best way to get the outcome without unnecessary struggle. And so looking at the example of weight loss, we all have the knowledge of how to do it. But how do we best execute it with the least amount of effort? For example, yes, going to the gym for 7 days a week will get you the most results. But is it the most effective results? The most effective result is maybe working out 3 times a week and doing those main things, the main leverage points that allow you to hit your outcome faster rather than overworking yourself. And like I mentioned, in our spiritual mind, these faculties of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom is so crucial. But the order is also very crucial. Some people want wisdom and they forget about knowledge and understanding. When we read the book of Proverbs always highlights the fact that wisdom is so important, that wisdom is the most valuable thing. That is correct. Wisdom is the most valuable thing. But in order for you to have wisdom, there are prerequisites required for you to have that. In order for you to have wisdom, you need to have the prerequisite of knowledge and understanding. For example, all of us want a PhD. And same thing, in the book of Proverbs, when they're saying that you need wisdom, basically the book of Proverbs is basically saying that, oh, you need a PhD. Yes, the PhD is the most important. Yes, wisdom is the most important. But without the foundations of elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and then a master's degree, you cannot get that PhD, right? And the same thing with the book of Proverbs. In order for you to have wisdom, you first need the prerequisite of knowledge and understanding. Here's another analogy. The book of Proverbs is basically saying that you should get a very tall skyscraper. Yes, we all want the tallest skyscraper. That's the best. But in order for you to build the tallest skyscraper, you first need the foundation. You first need the foundation of knowledge and understanding that then leads to wisdom. You cannot have wisdom without the foundation that leads up to it. Let me give you another parable. Suppose I'm giving you 2 business opportunities. Suppose it's opportunity A and opportunity B. And I told you, hey, pick one opportunity. There's no way you can make a wise decision on which opportunity is the best, right? You cannot make a wise decision on which opportunity is the best because you lack the knowledge. You lack the facts. Because you lack the facts about what things make up each opportunity, you can't make the wisest decision. And so now let me give you the knowledge about those 2 opportunities. Opportunity A has a higher salary, but opportunity A has lower health insurance benefits. Opportunity B, you have less salary in opportunity B, but you have more health insurance. So now for both of these opportunities, you now have the knowledge. But why is understanding crucial? Because for a 10-year-old, the opportunity A looks like the best, right? All he cares about is the most amount of money he'll make. So he'll pick opportunity A. But someone who is older, someone who is more mature, someone who understands the importance of health insurance, understands that always the salary is not the most important thing, that the health insurance is the most important thing. And so understanding allows you to know which part of this knowledge is the most important. Once you have the understanding about the situation, for example, that the health insurance is more important than just the salary, then you can make the wisest decision once you have those 2 things. Once you have the knowledge and you have the understanding. And like I mentioned, you cannot make a wise decision without first knowing the facts and then understanding the facts. Another way to think about it is like a jar. Suppose in a jar you need to put inside a bunch of big stones, a bunch of small stones, and a bunch of sand. Someone who is foolish, they'll first put the sand in the jar, and then they'll try to put the small stones, and by the time they put in the small stones, there's not enough space to put the big stones, right? And so we see that there's an ordering that matters. There's an importance of order. And so the correct order is first putting the big stones and then putting the small stones. But the small stones will then fill in the gaps in between the big stones. And then we'll be pouring the sand, but the sand will fill in the gaps in between the small stones. And so we see that the ordering matters. If we do things in the improper order, it can give us the wrong result. And so likewise, in the faculty of our spiritual mind determines our spiritual IQ. How do we develop our spiritual IQ? It's by developing these three faculties of our spiritual mind. And we need to develop them in the correct order of knowledge, understanding, and then wisdom. I hope you guys were blessed by this video. If you guys were blessed, subscribe to this channel to stay up to date when I post more Christian content like this. So I hope you guys were blessed and see you guys next time.